Hello, and welcome to the Wheel and Chill Show. We are back again on this very special International Women's Day. Everyone clap, everyone in the chat clap. It's a very, thank you. It's a very, very special day. So good to see all of you who are in the chat already. Thank you for waiting. Today we have a big stream. We've got 5 people right now on one call. It's going to be an excellent time. We've got 2 amazing, amazing guests. And, because we've got a pretty big topic today, we're talking about whether the Wheel of Time is feminist. So we got to go over, what does feminism mean? Does that answer differ between the books and the show? Whether that changes from the beginning of the books to the later books. There's a lot of ground to cover here. So we are going to have our guests introduce themselves, and then we'll give you a little introduction of ourselves, and then we are going to get into it. So first, Jenny, Lezbi Nerdy, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Lezbi Nerdy. I have a YouTube channel called Lezbi Nerdy, and if you want to look it up, you just put the whole name in, because among the things I didn't think of when I thought of my name, one is if you only put half my name in, you get results that maybe are not safe for work. So, yeah. I talk mostly about the Wheel of Time, and I am a little obsessed, so that's me.
Welcome.
Welcome. So excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here.
All right, Vance, the Bard of the Red Hand. Why don't you introduce yourself and plug whatever you want to plug?
Right. Hey, everybody. Vance, Bard of the Red Hand here, back again on another live stream to chat about the Wheel of Time. Who would have thought, right? Guy with a Wheel of Time centric YouTube channel on to talk with some very good folks about the Wheel of Time and whether or not it's feminist. You can find me here on YouTube at the Bard of the Red Hand. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Red Hand Bard. I also have a TikTok, the Bard of the Red Hand, if you want to go over there. I've made some what I thought were funny little short clips. But maybe you might not find them funny. So, anyway,
they're pretty good, actually.
Yeah,
well,
I enjoy them.
big fan.
Vance, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you here. So y'all may know me. This is my channel. I'm Kritter XD on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and I have a Discord. And I'm also Egwene Alvear on Twitter. So I'm all over the place. I'm helping plan WatCon this year. So if you don't have your membership yet, you should consider getting it. It is in July, I think the 8th through the 10th, unless my memory is just completely fried today. And really excited about that. And the volunteer page for that just opened up. So if you want to volunteer at WatCon, you can now sign up for that. Also, I'll be going to JordanCon, even though I am not helping plan that. I will be on a couple of panels, so I'm really excited about that too. And we will see you there if you've got your passes already. All right, Tavern, why don't you introduce yourself?
Everybody, Tavern here, and I have TikTok, I have Twitch, I design merch. You can find it on Redbubble. If you go to my profile on Twitter, you can see the link tree that will point you. Look, she's wearing merch. Winespring is drinking merch. I am my own merch. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for coming out.
Amazing. We've got a good topic. I'm sure everyone's very excited to hear what Tavern has to say on the topic of feminism.
Oh, very.
I think you'll have some illuminating insights. All right, Winespring.
Hashtag Egwene go pop.
Exactly. Winespring, why don't you hit us with your deets?
We're already on that again.
I know.
I'm Winespring. WinespringCafe.com is my Wheel of Time food blog. Check it out. Go make some food. It's delicious. It's awesome. You can find me on Twitter. Winespring Cafe is my handle. And also on Instagram, where it just gets kind of fun. So come say hey.
Heck yeah. And your Twitter, we're going to talk about the poll that you had about whether the Wheel of Time is feminism. So something to look forward to, because that one got a lot of action. Lots of people had lots of thoughts
got a lot of views
on this topic. So you guys in the chat, Sith Guy, Tavern needs to explain the topic.
Shameless advertising. Come on.
Silly. Robert M., thank you for becoming a member. Oh my gosh, welcome to the Kritter Circle. That's my official, unofficial name for all of my members. So I hope you guys like it. All right, so let's go. So part of the reason that Vance is here today is because he's a little bit of an expert, and I don't want to make you nervous. Okay, maybe not an expert, but he took some classes in college about this topic, and so I figured legitimacy is important, and I was going to read just a very, very base definition of feminism for everyone to kind of set a baseline, and then kind of let Vance just kind of like you riff off of that for a second. So the base definition of feminism, just so we're all on the same page, because I know a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about what it means, and some of those thoughts don't really have a basis in fact. So feminism is merely the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. That's it. Nothing more complicated. I mean, like as far as like without getting into the history of it all, that's it. So Vance, what do you have to say about that?
Right. So first, I will go a little bit more into detail. I am a sociologist by education and by degree. So naturally, I took lots of classes that gave me a little bit broader perspective than possibly I've been raised with. So some of those classes did involve gender studies, classes on social movements such as the feminist movement. We covered many different movements throughout history, generally focusing on the United States, of course, because it was in a U.S.-based college, so that's no surprise there. Some bias inherent in the system. Anywho, so to me, that baseline definition of feminism is pretty spot on. I would argue that you can also take it a little bit further and state that due to specific historical social institutions, women have been in a disadvantaged position throughout history in general, not always, but in general. And you can use a feminist perspective to reevaluate history and recontextualize some things, and have a more broad perspective of humanity, because after all, women are half the population of the planet, and we don't have nearly as much from their perspective as we do from men's perspective. So that's I was also like a history guy, so it's kind of how I approach things and look at it. And but in everyday active life, absolutely, it's about fighting for equality of the sexes, bringing women up to parity in many regards to men. This can be in things like pay scale, comparable options for promotions, things like that, so on and so forth. So I don't want to keep rambling. I'll pass it off.
I love that. So I guess
that was great.
That was that was beautiful.
Thank you.
He is an expert.
So I guess we're setting a baseline here, and everyone kind of has their own way they think about, well, if you do think about feminism generally, everyone's got their own kind of perspective on it. So I guess I would just ask to get to establish further baselines. Lezbi Nerdy, what's your definition of feminism? Is that kind of what you think of it as?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty spot on. Both what both of you just said is pretty spot on. It's about equality for women. Weirdly, this is a bit of a tangent, but most of you know I live in Korea, and Korea has a very different definition of feminism. It's like people get blacklisted for calling themselves feminist in Korea because and I'm constantly having to explain, no, it's just equality. That's literally, it's just wanting to reach for equality between the genders. So yeah, that's my definition.
I love that. Whenever I've posted on TikTok about feminism, I get this pushback, like, I'm no feminist. It like as if it's a negative thing, like as if women want more than equal rights, and like, and I've been explained before that there are multiple waves of feminism, and a certain wave just purely hates men, and that's what that wave of feminism is. And it's like, I'm not sure, like, there might be individuals that subscribe to third wave feminism, which is like, I assume like more assertive women. It's like the Sex and the City women. It's the Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or whatever. It's like women who present more, I don't know the word, aggressive in society. People don't so some people don't like that. Imagine that. But some people take like that wave, and some women who, you know, burn their bras or do aggressive things against men, they just say like, oh, that's the whole group. That's all of them together.
Yeah.
And that's just not it. You know, like I am a millennial. Like I am a nowadays feminist, and I just think equality is what we need. You know, like that's all I'm here for. So that's kind of,
I think
go
I
ahead.
think villainizing feminism is a way to shut down the conversation. And so
Yes.
that's what people do. They will make it like, no. First of all, burning bras never happened. I'm also a history person. Like, I love history.
Oh.
That was never a thing. Like,
Okay.
that's a thing that people made up about, like, oh, they burned. No, they nobody ever did that. Like,
Yeah, it was in
It's so
response.
interesting
It was
to
in
hear that.
response to women that didn't feel like they needed to wear bras or didn't feel like wearing bras. So what did they do with those bras? They burned them.
that's
It's
actually like,
it's a
they
marketing
didn't
ploy.
They didn't even burn them. Like, that's a thing.
Exactly,
That's
yeah.
literally a thing that was made up. They decided
Absolutely.
they're not going to wear bras, and they just didn't wear bras. Like,
They
Exactly.
put it 3 drawers down for the outfit they really need it for.
Amen. Who likes
where it
bras
lives.
anyways? Literally no one.
Yeah.
So I guess that was my perspective. Is just like like feminists, to me, someone who is a feminist does not like hate men by definition necessarily, because they're after equality, and if they truly hated men, then they wouldn't want equality. So and I love men. I think men are great. And I
I do too.
You know?
Even as a lesbian, I just don't want them in my pants. That's all.
There you go, you know?
I don't want them in my pants either.
I've heard Jenny
put
say
that out
that
there.
so many times over the last few years, and
really?
I still bust out laughing.
It's amazing. It's the
Uh,
best
Always
thing
unexpected.
I've heard in a while.
Okay, so Winespring, do you have any like your own personal perspective on feminism?
Yeah. Okay, I would say that feminism is everyone feeling safe and empowered to live out their best life.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Empowered, and that like it's, you know, without equality.
Safe and empowered.
Without equality, you are not empowered. That's like the opposite.
Empowerment's kind of the focus for me. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Tavern, do you have any other feminist
I mean,
definition?
Not so much as a definition as it is how I feel about it personally.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll preface this by saying I hate titles. I hate labeling things because it almost kind of covers up what the real issue is. Sort of like the burning bras thing. It's a slogan, something to catch attention and whatnot. Right. So to me, feminism is basically common sense. Right? It's common sense. It's equality. And those that oppose feminism, it's because they want to oppose it. There's no need for it, right? And they can say, oh, it's my beliefs. No, but you want to believe that. You don't need to believe that. So it comes from a want. So therefore, anyone who is against equality wants to be against equality. They want to be higher on the rung than whoever, whether it's feminism, anti-LGBTQ or any of that stuff, right? Anti-religion. I have a big issue with religion, organized religion, but I mean, Vance touched on this earlier when he said certain groups throughout history forced this issue, right? And it's been going on for eons, really, millennia, whatever. It's just sad. So the way I was raised, everybody's equal. Anybody can do whatever they want to do. If you are against somebody being themselves, then that's a want that you have, and that's an issue that you have. And that's it.
Love that. Love that. Jessica Sadai in the chat has a really good point. Titles and labels lend themselves really well to making generalizations, and so that's kind of like everybody's their own person, and if everyone had equal rights and was respected equally and was equally empowered in society, man, wouldn't life be grand? Like so much grander than it is right now. So feminism, we're talking Wheel of Time specific though, and I think it's about time for us to get into, I'm thinking just specific examples in the Wheel of Time that might kind of explain or show us whether Robert Jordan, Brandon Sanderson, and the showrunners, all of them differently or the same, how they felt about feminism and whether that was a message that they were trying to send was, equality for all. So I think if we're just going to start in like eye of the world, because, some people start out the Wheel of Time and I've had the complaint that it seems crazy and the gender dynamics are absurd and over the top because there's the women's circle, then there's the village council, and everybody thinks everybody's incompetent and, like trying to take away power from each other. And there's all that. And so the question is, like, in the eye of the world, the first time we see this village council with this wisdom and this, in this women's circle, are they sending a message? Was Robert Jordan sending a message to us in that, like, women and men like can't work together, for example, or they should be separate? And is that anti-feminist? I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts about kind of like the structure of the Two Rivers or Eamon's Field or the government of that city and how it might speak to Robert Jordan's thoughts at the beginning of the series?
I mean, I never pictured it that the village council didn't ever work with the women's circle, right? Like, I thought they were these two separate leadership organizations that handled different things and then collaborated when needed. So I never had that perspective of, oh, they're separate. Just like, but it's, I mean, it kind of, I think what he was trying to do there is also like build into like some of these historical notions that like villages would have a village council typically headed by men, and then everyone knew that all the women in the village got together, talked about all the men, talked about what was happening, and had their own agendas that they were trying to get right. Like we had knitting circles and stuff like that. And I'm sure people's grandmothers have told them stories about like sitting around with all their friends while, the men were out messing up everything and we were holding it all together. So, I think that's kind of where this comes from. And to a degree, like, I know where RJ pulled that from because he's from the South and I live in the South and I've been raised here my whole life. And I definitely see and have seen a lot of that kind of mentality in the culture here. And so, like, when I saw that just looked like normal to me. It didn't look like anything special or different. He just had fancy names for the group of men who go do stuff and then the group of women who go do stuff. So
okay.
I also thought he was just setting things up like in a small thing for the way the magic system works. Like there's a male business and a female, like it was, it's in a very small way you could see it. The women do this, the men do this, and together they get stuff done. But they do it like in separate spheres, and it works because they're in separate spheres, which is, that's how Saidin and Saidar are. It's the way he made this incredibly rigidly binary magic system is the men use one power and the women use another power, and they're separate, but they work together. And I always is that. Yeah.
Okay.
It seems like people really aren't so happy about how binary they're like. It's kind of limiting on maybe some of our like trans sisters, or like they need some representation. And I can't wait to see what our showrunner does, in future seasons with that too, where they're going to be represented somehow, on the show.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because they're not anywhere in the book as far. I'm going, wait, they are. There is a character.
Yeah, there's one.
That's the only one I see brought up. Okay, so that's why. Like that's what we need to fix. Like that's kind of a part of equality that's part of feminism too, that we can't just leave out.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I think I don't know, like I'm always so susceptible to like the reason I came up with that question, for example, because I agree that to me that was just like a form of governance. Like that's and Dana Luhu in the chat says Robert Jordan said he did not write the series as matriarchal. He tried to have a more balanced gender dynamic across the world, and that began in Eamon's Field. And people on TikTok will comment these things like they always make men out to be incompetent. Like everything the village council did, the women's circle overruled. And it's just like, I mean, not really.
Where?
Literally, there's so many comments like that where I'm just like, where do you get this? Like, what do
literally like you made that up? That didn't happen in the book.
What do I literally like?
Aren't there jokes about Nynaeve overstepping the men's council? Follow Moraine
kind of
the
goes
men's
back and forth. Goes back and
Yeah.
forth. I know what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
I think they may be getting the fact that there's always that's women's circle business,
Yeah.
and that's village council business, where they're kind of going back and forth. But the bottom line is this, and I've brought this up before, is that Robert Jordan created a world. One, I completely agree with Jenny that the way that the governance of the small villages and towns, right, are basically a microcosm of the greater Aes Sedai, of the Age of Legends, where men and women work together. They were their separate groups, but they worked together, and that's how things worked in harmony, right? And to me, that's clearly defined, okay, in the beginning of the book. You also have to take into consideration when you see these comments about, I see a lot of comments, the show is woke, and all of these woke people, the ridiculousness of it. The story is about a world that was destroyed by men doing something very stupid, right? In the Age of Legends, which was known for the equality of its people, men and women working together equally. And men decided to do something, the women were like, that's not a good idea. They did it anyways, and they fucked up the world. So if at the beginning of the books there's this whole, women, think they're superior, I'm not gonna lie, they kind of are. It was set up that way because men fucked up.
I mean, I guess like to push back on that just slightly, and I hate this because
you're fine.
First of all, I want to flag a comment. Hybrid Havoc says, in the context of the Wheel of Time, I think the way that Jordan describes the Age of Legends, his own sort of vision of utopia, is a better signifier of his thoughts on equality. I think that's awesome because, like, in the Age of Legends, it was very balanced, and there's no telling that if the women would have joined the dragon, it wouldn't have worked out. And so, like, it's kind of like, if they would have agreed either way, then it might have worked out better. You don't think so, Vance?
Actually, nope. Oh, I know so, because RJ has stated that if the women went to help the men, both sides of the source would have been tainted. He is emphatic. He stated that it is a Fury land. You can go look it up.
I missed that.
He said it more than once. He said it more than once.
Well, okay. Then,
you learn something new every day.
So,
the women were right.
Hashtag Luz Theron Telemon was wrong.
I love that.
So,
to be fair to Luz Theron, I also think the women's plan was wrong. Like, I think RJ designed it so that nobody could have fixed this. But it was the men's plan.
The only way to fix it was for something bad to happen and the collapse to happen, because that's what the wheel deemed necessary to save the pattern.
Exactly.
All right, so
it's a catch-22. They can't get out of it.
Yeah.
That being said, that was he said it in an interview, so that's behind the scenes. That actually doesn't come to play in the books themselves.
The books, no. But also,
so based on just what we have from the books, we wouldn't know that. Your average reader wouldn't know that unless they go delving, like some of us do, into old interviews or whatever. So just from your average reader reading the book, again, had the Age of Legends, which was balanced and pretty perfect, and then somebody did something screwed up. So the book starts off with women, the Aes Sedai and whatnot, being in power and kind of pulling the strings, because men who can channel can't be trusted.
Now, much like Kritter, I am going to push back on this just a tiniest bit, because when I read the books, I read them by myself. Like, I didn't have any friends who were fans. When I joined sort of the online fandom, which is like within the last couple of years, I was shocked to find out that people thought that the books were more of a matriarchy, because the gender dynamics in the books feel exactly the same as the real world to me. You do have the Aes Sedai in power, but everybody hates them and is scared of them. People are scared of women in power. That's exactly the same as the world today. Like, that's not feminism. That's not matriarchy. That's men are scared of women in power.
It's true.
That's the exact same as reality.
That's true.
Is it men in general, or is it groups of organized men?
The world is scared of women in power, which is, again, same as reality.
It reflects reality.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that's true. So, I guess that kind of leads to the, like, women are in power, right? At the beginning, they're not necessarily loved, but they are in power. And Then we are introduced to, in the books, our main protagonists. Those happen to be three young boys, right? Or, young men. They're three young men and a couple of women who aren't Tavern in the books, and therefore aren't, to me, at least as a reader, the focal points of the story. Like starting out, it was clear that Rand, Matt, and Perrin were the most important things in the world, the most important characters. And that was, to me, a little off-putting. Granted, I was young, and so I was pretty used, and I was pretty used to reading books that were male-dominated. Let's be honest, I started reading fantasy with Lord of the Rings. There aren't that many women in that either. And so it was like, okay, three main boys, whatever. The author's a man, that's what you can expect. But then as time went on, it became clear that they were just a piece of the puzzle that was much more intense and vast and included women and men as main protagonists. But I guess so do we think then that the beginning of the books have a different vibe than the end of the books, or was it just this intentional progression from what you think is going to happen to what it actually ended up happening, which was everyone. It was about them all,
My friend Bree calls it a Trojan horse, and I agree. I honestly think that he wrote the first book in a way that feels familiar. So everybody, we got not even just a male dragon. He's a redhead. This feels really, really familiar. He's a redheaded male protagonist, and then everybody reads it. It feels normal, and then you get to book 2. And then book 3, and he's not even there. He tricked you into a reading of a series that was half about women. And I don't know.
I love this theory,
but I like it as a theory. Yeah.
And Kritter, you were saying that people were commenting that the women in particular were flat at the beginning of the book.
And I said that before the stream, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah. But I mean, you've mentioned that. And here's my thing. They're podunks from a hick town who know nothing, right? They're young.
Very young.
What do you expect them to be? World travelers? No, they're not going to know jack. They're going to be one-dimensional because they don't know anything else but, sheep herding and whatnot. So as they move through the books, they grow. That's what character progression is. So
Agreed.
I don't understand. I don't understand the comments.
Yeah, I think. Well, to be fair, okay, I did mention I've had people comment that before, and I tend to somewhat agree that at the beginning of the books, Nynaeve is angry. Egwene wants an adventure, and that's it. and then eventually they become so much more. But I guess at the same time, Matt is a scamp and Perrin is broody, and there's only so many layers to any of the characters, and so
the only character that gets dimension in the book 1, as on a surface level, is Rand,
because he's the POV.
Exactly.
I can
he
is grumpy as shit.
I can look back and see dimension in the other characters. There's a scene, one of my favorite scenes from Eye of the World, because I'm a Nynaeve, I'm obsessed. And there's a scene with her that people don't notice the last line of the scene, and that adds so much depth to it. That scene where Nornave, what the sorry.
Yeah, Nornave, yeah.
Moraine reveals to Nynaeve that she can channel. The last line of that chapter, where you read through it and it's in her point of view, so you think angry. The last line of that chapter, she's crying. It's literally she's been crying this entire time, but she's been telling herself that she's angry, and it's there's dimension there, but you have to look.
At least 2. At least 2.
Yeah.
And that's where that gets us back into the never-ending unreliable narrator that RJ built in, right? Because I mean, how much of the beginning of the Eye of the World is accurate because it's 90% from Rand's point of view, and so it's just his perspective of how he sees everybody. Because as we move on through the books, we realize, these people aren't actually acting the way that Rand said they would in some situations, right?
Right.
And they lie about themselves to themselves. Matt and Nynaeve are probably the two best examples
So
of this
true.
in the entire
They are mirrors of each other, I think. They lie about themselves to themselves constantly.
Yeah, they don't believe they are who they are, so they tell themselves lies.
It's true. It's true.
So Robert Jordan is expecting the reader to be aware of whose perspective they're reading from, like, so that because that adds all the layers. Okay,
Right.
I like that. Yeah,
For
that makes
sure.
a lot of sense. And it sounds like some readers just aren't doing that.
I
and so
Flames-
I was just gonna say that gets into some of RJ's like writing style, where he's not like a hand-holdy author.
right.
Like some people are. He expects you to read and reread and pick up what he's trying to tell you from subtext and clues and things like that. I mean, part of his favorite things was like going out on his book tours and interacting with his fans and listening to his theories and then making them squirm with his answers. So
I love that.
Saying things like, "It's obvious." What?
So obvious. So obvious. Beth Weston actually had a really cool comment. I think the books are paced in a way where the reader's worldview is widened at the same time as the EF5. And I think that's perfect. That's
Yes.
amazing. It's
100%.
so narrow at first, and then just as time goes on, it's like, oh my gosh. Like, I keep telling people, if you don't think the Wheel of Time has good women, which I've heard,
Keep reading.
keep reading, because my favorite character is a woman. Egwene is my hero. Like, you must keep reading.
Oh, yes.
I think the
She's-
women. Granted,
Wayne.
this is my. But I think the women are so much more interesting than the men.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Much
that's one of the reasons that I think that there were so many points of view in the books, right? Like Vance was saying, or at the very beginning, you're getting the point of view from one person, then you get a point of view from another person. So as a reader, as you're getting these different points of view on one character or let's say Matt, for example, as you're getting that point of view from different characters, or looking at Matt, you need to piece out where the real Matt is and who the real Matt is, because even Matt himself is not telling you who the hell he is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. Which my second point is, in the show starts off with basically Moraine's point of view, right?
Yeah.
Which makes complete and utter sense. I mean,
Loved
complete
it.
sense, because the first part of this book, or of the series, is pretty much about her searching for the Dragon Reborn for 20 years. Who else's point of view should it be from? Especially, and when most of the stuff in the books is internal dialogue.
Yeah.
You've got to put it on the screen. Yeah, you have to do that. And people were complaining that, Moraine was in charge. That's how it should have started. It's just that simple. But yeah, I think the different points of view is I look at it as a puzzle, right? And you have to piece together each person based on what everybody else sees of them.
What their vantage point was. Yeah. That's what makes it fun to read.
It's exactly.
That's why
God,
we like reading it. Yeah.
Super
Kritter.
chat. Your voice is out.
I'm muted.
I can't hear you,
My
Kritter.
bad. No wonder. No wonder.
They're professionals.
Something always happens, and if that's it, then I'm happy. But I wanted to say that Beth Weston, thank you for the $5 in super chat. This is really related to what Tavern was just saying. Great topic. Do you think Eye of the World would have been better served if there were more POVs, or would that have been too confusing for new readers to follow? Tavern, I take it you think Moraine, or multiple POVs including Moraine, so she's not just this mysterious figurehead like she kind of is in the Eye of the World.
I actually like the way the books played out. For show, it had to be changed because there was too much internal dialogue that you can't put on the screen, right? But for the books, I think it was done masterfully. You have some hidden information. You have these characters that are mysterious. You want, as a reader, I want to grow with the characters. I want to learn about the characters in a natural progression, and I think it was done beautifully in the series.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Because of how much I love these books, I would love to read the Eye of the World from everybody's perspective.
It's like Midnight Sun, like with Twilight. It's like Midnight Sun, Edward's perspective.
Oh, I have no idea because I never read the
Sorry.
Let's not get into shiny vampires.
I'm just saying the author released the same book because Twilight is written completely from Bella's perspective, which is the main girl character.
Okay.
She like 10 years later or something, I don't know how long it was, she released Midnight Sun, which is the same book, but from Edward, the love interest perspective. And people
I didn't
ate
know that
shit up. And you know what? I would for Wheel of Time, I would take that in a moment.
I want from everybody.
Yeah.
freaking Sen Bui's perspective. I want to read it from his. Like, I want to read everybody's
Let's not get carried away. Nobody likes Sen Bui.
I love that. I love
No.
that too. You chose.
Hilarious.
It would be. That would be a funny book.
Young whippersnapper Nynaeve came over.
Well,
and
everyone would be an enemy to him. They're against everything Sen wants to do.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
He wants-
painful to
he-
watch.
He's old and he wants to take a nap, but they want him to go thatch some roofs. Get out of
Yeah.
here.
Oh my gosh.
What are they
So,
doing?
yeah, I
Putting-
just love him.
Putting rocks on the roof. What is that?
Yeah, I think I agree with Tavern. I think that Eye of the World is done really, really well. I don't know how it would be. Like, I can't even imagine reading it from Moraine's perspective. It
Well,
would
that
just be a
crazy.
like. I would love it though. I don't know if it would be better. I know I would love it.
I think that the
Same.
show has done a really good job of that. With the whole, they had the prophecies, but they don't trust the prophecies,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Because they're
Oh,
3,000
so
years
good.
old.
Yes.
It was done so well. And
Yeah.
I'm not, everybody here in the chat knows, especially, I don't know who it is, I don't know if they're in here, who says I'm always negative. I don't like anything about
We've got a
about
beef
the
going.
books. No, there's no beef. There's no beef. It's
Calm
like,
down.
like
Calm
ground
down.
beef. But they did it so well on the show. And
Hmm.
you know, there's, I can't say anything else. I mean, the internal dialogue is what it is in the books, and that's where your POV comes from, but it wouldn't play well on the screen.
Speaking of internal dialogue, also Jessica Sadai, thank you so much for $3 in super chat. I see that you did not actually leave a comment, but
Can you read the emoji?
wait. Was there an emoji? Does it say? Was there?
There's a
I
little
didn't
blue.
see an
There's a little
emoji.
blue pear.
Oh, there
throwing
is.
kisses.
Yeah.
Oh, there is.
I missed it. Where? It's not in
It's
my.
a dancing. It's a hair
Dancing
blowing
blue
a kiss.
Pear.
Amazing. Okay, I'll have to
kisses.
go back in the
That
chat.
headband.
I think my stream chat is like behind, which is fine with me, and I'm excited to see it in the relay. But okay, so speaking of POVs and like internal dialogue, there's one thing that I think speaks to our topic, which is Rand's list. Okay, so
Okay.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
right? So for me, every time he reads that list off in his head, I just like
Okay.
a bird dies off on the horizon. Like I hate it. Sorry, Winespring.
No,
Go ahead. How do you
Kritter.
feel about it?
This list. Let's talk about what it is first. This is his running list of names of females that have died because of him. Is this right?
According
that he
to
feels
him.
died.
Yeah.
That he feels responsible for.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't like this. This is
I don't, because like if
bad.
it seems like women are being held on a pedestal as like as these objects that need to be protected, like in a glass case, right? They don't have their own what's the
Agency?
God, thank you. Sometimes I can't. It's sometimes I can't figure that out. Sometimes I can't think of it. They don't have their own agency, and Rand is the one who's basically controlling their lives, and they die because of him. And I hate that internal dialogue, especially because he doesn't have the same for the men that die
Nope.
explicitly because of him. Like they have their own agency, so it's not necessarily as much his fault, or he at least doesn't feel as bad about it. And I dislike it, but it comes from his Two Rivers small town men need to protect women nonsense, and he
Does and
he gets over it though, right? Eventually, like
Yes, he does.
that's why I think like it was bad, not feminist, not equal, and then eventually when he gets enlightened, he comes out of it, which I like. Winespring,
Yeah,
were you saying something?
Is it like I can't read, so I haven't read that part, so you guys help me understand. Is it his like a trauma response to just seeing death that he pulls back into this Two Rivers way of thinking, you think? Or is it like
Well,
real growth
It's
of character?
specifically,
we
it is
see?
specifically about women, though. That's the
Yeah.
thing. And I see Aelthus in chat has also said that's a Southern upbringing.
it is.
And
It's a
I
very
will
Southern,
100%,
yeah.
yes, that is a very Southern U.S. thing. And I mean,
Yeah.
we all know RJ's from South Carolina. That's definitely how I was raised in the 90s
Yes.
in the South,
Mhm.
y'all. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you that right
Yeah.
now.
I believe
That
it.
was still the attitudes people were raising
Yeah.
kids with not
Yeah.
that long ago. That
No,
did not
it's
change.
currently-
Honestly, it may not be different because
It's
I don't
not.
have kids.
I
And
have kids. Listen, I
you
have
know.
kids, and it's still you treat them to respect other people. Now, granted, my kids have always been very open with them and let them make their own choices in life and make their own decisions. But I see Rand's point of view just like what Vance said, it's an upbringing thing, right? You respect women, you don't hurt women, you know, that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I don't go around punching women. That's not how I was raised. But if a woman's coming at me with a knife, I'm gonna knock her the hell out. It's that simple, right?
Same.
Because you know, whatever. But there's only 2 characters in the books that are like that. Rand is the worst. Perrin is also very much, protect women. You know, you get that a lot when he comes into Vale, but he's very much like that as well. So it really comes from an upbringing. Did they kind of overdo it? Yeah, but as a soldier, I get it. I get it.
I would say this is not just Southern, and it's not even just like, I mean, to bring in real world. I've seen this on the news literally yesterday, where they were listing deaths from the conflict, the war, and they specified so many people died, including so many women. Like they have to,
right?
Like it's separate somehow. Like so many people died, but the women are somehow worse. Their deaths are somehow worse than the men's deaths.
Because it's a shock factor.
Because it's a shock factor, and it's because women are seen as something to be protected.
Yeah.
They are like, and it's frustrating. It's like as a feminist, I'm like, but the men also died. Like that's just as sad. Like
it's
that's
just as sad. Yeah.
Just recently, the U.S. military started allowing women on the front lines.
Yeah.
Or we're talking about like a decade ago, maybe. Before that, women couldn't hold positions in the military that would take them onto the front lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, to an extent. I mean, medics and that kind of stuff, but to be infantry or stuff like that, no, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, Vance said it's based on institutions that's what they want to put out. That's how people were raised. It's ridiculous.
I will point out, like Dana in chat is pointing this out. This is again one of those behind the scenes things that those of us who are super fans know. But this is RJ processing his own trauma, right?
Yes.
And like, I don't want to go into say like, oh, if you were brought up in that that women should be protected, which still to this day most people are brought up with that. Like I said, just literally yesterday.
Yeah,
you are going to have that trauma, and I don't want to like it's one of those frustrating things of you shouldn't see women as separate. But if in your mind you do, you are going to be processing that trauma, and you can't undo what's there. Like you can't undo what's already in your head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing some people in the chat saying like, well, there's a difference explicitly because women can bear children and men can't. But to me, like if that's where we're drawing the line, that devalues women who can't have children. I don't love that. Like men can father children. Like you need both in order for a child to be made. And so women are the ones that carry and bear them, but not all women do that. And men are necessary for that as well. So I understand that that's kind of like the reason a lot of people say women need to be protected. And if a woman is in a vulnerable state, like not Shail, because while she was giving birth, she was fine. but like, if they're in a vulnerable state because they're pregnant or giving birth, then absolutely protect the hell out of them. That's 2 lives, like rather than 1, depending on your beliefs, I guess. But it's kind of just, I just don't love it because I think
it feels like making women into they're baby carriers, so they need to be protected. Like,
I feel like it. Yes, I feel like it harkens back to a time specifically when women were more property than people. Considered so. You definitely. Yeah, I know it's not a great thought, but it exists. So
when we start thinking about dowries and all that other crap.
Yeah, like we have to like. I think it's less some of this like placing women on a pedestal maybe has some of its like origins in like, I don't know, just kind of male domination of women in general. Like,
sure. I think that's fair. Somebody in the chat actually commented that, so I'm not supposed to protect a woman if she's being abused. No, we're supposed to protect everyone if they're being
we are
abused.
not pacifists.
Like,
straw man arguments are so ridiculous.
The point here is that everyone's life is important, matters, and should be just as tragic if it's lost, like regardless of sex. And that is feminism because it's equality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Kritter, there's a comment. Leia,
Mhm.
say it's pronounced Leia.
I think so.
Said,
yeah.
I've heard a theory that Jordan made this list so he could cop out of writing women in battle and then dying. And to that I say, Demise Wells. Right? That was the start of just women destroying shit. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. I don't know if he was copping out of writing them in battle. I think that when they were written into battle in the books, it was at the right time. Based on just the way that the Aes Sedai in general were written, and their rules, right? Their 3 rules. But yeah, even the wise ones were amazing. So I don't think he was copying out. I think that they played out at the right time in the books.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Nicely said.
Well, not to mention the in the battle for Eamon's Field, the women ended up just like they're the inner circle, baby. Like we're gonna we're gonna protect I think the women in a lot of the Wheel of Time are fierce AF. Think about the maidens of the spear.
Let's bring up the maidens.
Like they're amazing.
Maidens.
So
I will go there. There is this is my level of because that is another issue I have with the way his idea of equality and feminism is portrayed in the books. Women are fierce by doing things that men do. Women are fierce because they shoot arrows and they become maidens of the spear. Men never venture into female spheres, which if you are dealing with equality, if you are dealing with feminism, both sides would be equal. So there would be transfer both ways. But if transfer only goes one way, that's because that other way is seen as superior. So it's one of my arguments when people be like, it's a matriarchy. It's like, well, then you would see men wearing dresses. Because the reason it's okay for women to wear pants is or like a woman in a suit, that's hot. Because a woman is doing a man thing, that's super sexy. But when men wear dresses, well, what's that? Why is he wearing a dress? Like, because you don't want to become like a girl, ew. But becoming like if it was equal, you would see transfer both ways. If it was matriarchal, you would see transfer exclusively the other way. So
someone's asking, is there an example of a male caretaker in the Wheel of Time? And the example I'm thinking of, and please tell me I'm not making this up, is didn't Loyal protect all the children somewhere? Yeah,
through fighting, but yes.
But so like a caretaker in that way, at least. Also Tam
Okay, wait.
Tam
we have
Althor.
to define. We have to define caretaker.
Yeah.
What do you mean by caretaker?
Well, I guess we could cover multiple bases, right? Like if it's protecting their like health, you could use Loyal defending the children. If it's raising a person, Tam Althor raised Rand. Rand is he's got a single dad.
Tom caring for Rand and Matt.
True. It's true. Yeah.
There's a bunch of, if you were looking at it like that, there's a bunch of different
sorry, out of context comment. I just in all caps, pockets for everyone. Yes. Don't know what that's in reference
Sarah
to,
Bourbon. The women need pockets too. Amen.
That's about as feminist as anything. Pockets for everyone, because everybody agrees that we need freaking pockets.
Always a valid statement.
It's always a valid statement. Basil Gill is another good example. Good job.
Basil Gill, I love that. Yeah. Matt and Oliver. Oh my gosh.
Matt and Oliver.
Love that.
Good job, Lewin Corbin.
Talonvor, how he tries to take care of Morgause.
No.
I mean, I have
that's
so much
more,
beef with
that's a little more
Talonvor.
romantic.
Come on, you don't agree with that, man?
That's not a
Talonvor
caretaker.
walks around with his fedora calling people milady.
God,
I
yeah,
have issues with
milady.
Talonvor.
Talonvor, his character in the books always cracked me up because I'm like, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing?
He is hot for teacher, okay? Like that's I know. I'm just saying. That's the dynamic.
Sir.
That's the dynamic.
It's true.
He's a little much.
A little. Just a little.
We've got Damer Flynn's healing talent. I think that's a really good example of Hybrid Havoc.
It's true.
And I was going to say earlier, Jenny, whenever you were talking about men stepping into stereotypically women, female spheres, Rand did enter like the political, the more like Rand went for, even though it wasn't always intentional, he was pretty great at that Game of Houses or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Oh my gosh, so funny.
there is some example of like a fair amount, I guess, example of crossover
Jenny
in
is
the
a mood.
books.
I'm a mood. Oh yay, I'm a mood.
Apparently you're a mood.
For sure.
I agree. It's the
I'm
best
okay
kind of
with
mood. Best kind of mood.
All right, so yeah, I guess that's one thing to consider when it comes to this is men step into female spheres, some, and women definitely do. You know, they battle and do all kinds of stuff in the Wheel of Time. You love to see it. Now that's part of the reason
Love
I
it.
like the books. All right, so I'm trying to pull up this outline. Okay. One thing that I think is a hot ticket item for some. I know my husband absolutely despises the Warder Bond. Okay, and how Aes Sedai.
Really?
Well, yeah, because it's not an uncommon practice to nudge on that bond to get your warder to just do what you want, right? Like,
It's true. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's problematic. And I agree with him. That is problematic. If there was a warder bond that gave, like, you know, strength and knowledge of where you are at all times and, like, better healing and all that stuff, love it. You love to see it. But the
Yeah.
fact that there's this element of compulsion-esque
Yeah.
vibes
Manipulation,
in the warder bond, I think makes it kind of problematic. How, do you guys think
You
that
think
this...
Alana?
I-
You think Alana made
don't
him bring
think
her a
it's-
persimmon?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Vance, what were you saying?
Yeah, I don't think it's kind of problematic. The Bond situation is problematic. I mean,
Aha.
a lot of folks have
Yeah.
issues with it. I've seen many creators tackle the issue about ranging from consent issues that arise from it to the ethical issues of bonding somebody and then, you know, using the compelling nature of it to make people do things. So yeah, it's definitely a hot button issue. It's definitely problematic. It's a reason a lot of people hate Alana in the books and feel super conflicted about liking her in the show.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I mean, to that I say, if you like Alana in the show, like her in the show. I like tons of problematic characters in my fiction. I would not be friends with them in real life, but I like them in the books. So it's okay as long as you recognize that it's a problem. You know, just
it's a
say,
problem.
hey, it's
For
a problem.
me, yeah. For me, the warder bond is a gray area because, for the most part, again, Alana is an exception in the books anyway. The men go into it hopefully consenting, so they hopefully are going into it not just consenting, but within, like in academic fields, we call it informed consent.
Yes.
Like they know
Yes.
what's there,
Mhm.
and as long as they know, it's not a relationship I would want to be in, but it's the same as like I look at somebody's, you know, couple relationship, like I wouldn't want to be in that, but if they're happy, they're happy.
Do
So
they-
that's
do
how
they-
I feel about it.
Do they go into it knowing about
That's-
the little compulsion thing?
yeah,
I hope that they do, because Lan seems to know. Lan knows about it. Like he's like, you've never done this to me before, so he knew about it before. I would hope that the rest of them do. The reason Alana is a problem for me is because she bonded somebody without consent.
Yep.
Like that's a
yeah.
massive violation. So
Big
And,
issue with
and
that.
rightfully so, but we also have to take in consideration that Moraine did stuff to
Yeah.
Lan
yeah,
as well that I thought was, I wouldn't say as brutal as bonding without permission, but I mean sending him away to somebody else without his consent.
yeah, that is an issue. It's definitely
yeah.
an issue.
Huge issue.
Yeah.
Um,
It's why Moraine
yeah.
is not like a perfect character. Like she's
Exactly.
definitely morally gray. Like and it's one of those things where you feel like, you know, when it's time to save somebody's life, like I don't, you know, somebody's dying, I don't be like, oh, do I have your permission to perform CPR on you? Like
Right.
you're just gonna do it, right? Like so she's
Yeah.
trying to save his life. However, she's doing it before she's dying and before his life is at risk. So like it's such a
it's rough.
gray issue.
But
It's
she is
such a
doing it with
gray
the
issue.
knowledge that she's probably going to die. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So even though
Yeah.
his life may not be at risk right at that moment, she definitely knows hers is, right?
Yeah,
So,
like it's.
I mean,
there's a good intention there, but it's just
right.
Yeah.
It's just with Moraine's actions, she's a little bit more defensible because
It's
even though yes,
defensible, it's
she
gray.
yeah, it is great. Even though
Yeah.
she is doing something against like without Lan's consent, she is doing it to save his life, and she is doing it because she knows she's going to die, right?
Mhm.
Whereas Alana just bonds Rand and then has literally no plan,
Yeah.
Yeah, just a bunch of
absolutely nothing. Just wanted to do it. Just a collection, just to add him to her collection.
Horrible.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah, just somebody's opinion. Yes. Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead, Kritter.
You're found.
Just-
Just Somebody's opinion mentions, I found the Ashaman bonding the captive Aes Sedai even worse because there was no
Yeah.
consent whatsoever, and it was done with a kiss. Blah.
and with narrative flair that made it sound like the women were having an orgasm when it happened.
That
I'm
was-
sorry, it's just
Oh,
really,
gosh.
really gross.
That was a
It's
problem.
really gross.
disturbing.
That was a problem.
And it bothers me so much.
Yeah.
This is one of my issues, not with the books, with fandom, is that the fandom, as a general rule, absolutely hates Alana for what she did to Rand.
Yep.
And there,
Nobody gives a shit about what Logain did.
What Logan-
Nobody gives a shit.
yeah.
And he did it to more than one woman. But it's fine because it's Logain. Like,
What makes it
Damn.
Yep.
what makes it worse? I know. So what makes it worse? Was it the way it was done, or was it the fact that people are seeing it as a man doing something to a woman against her will?
Both.
it's both. And he
No,
did it
yeah,
so much
the-
worse. Like he literally
the verbiage was horrific. Yes.
yeah.
I'm just trying.
Everything is
and
worse.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. I'm just trying to figure out if we fall into that thing where it's a woman, so protect women, like we were talking about.
No,
earlier,
it's not.
and
It's not
because of
worse
that.
because it's a woman. It's worse because what he did it to more than one woman. He didn't just
Yeah,
do
it
it
was
to
horrible.
one. And he, in the bond, they are compelled. Like it's not like it included in the bond. They cannot disobey him. So
Now-
that's not included in the bond. With like in the warder bond, you can nudge, which somebody else pointed out. It feels akin to the whole nagging woman thing.
Mhm.
In the bond between the Ashaman and the Aes Sedai, they literally cannot disobey him.
Can't recall who figured out the bond for Yashaman to bond the women.
I don't know, but
I don't know
they
if we know
bond
that.
their wives without doing that, so they know how to do it without
Mhm.
without that. Like they unless
I
they're
get
all
that.
bonding their wives without making
Get
them,
that, but
like, yeah.
and I'm not not trying to whitewash this or however you want to put it. That's something that hadn't been done.
Mhm.
So somebody was just trying to figure it out, and so they did it the best or the way they thought was best.
That
sort of
feels like a
with
thing
Nynaeve.
Taim was like, this is going to be hilarious.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to figure out where it came from, because
That's my guess.
all of a sudden they were just bonding women.
Yeah.
Just
But
came out of
the thing
blue.
is, they know how to do it without that. So
Yeah.
they did it all, like they added that into that bond on purpose. Like
Mm.
they're unless they're all bonding their wives with compulsion,
Yeah.
then
they
that's
did
a
that-
whole other problematic issue. Like that's a whole other thing.
Do you think they were just doing it like that?
Yeah.
Aes Sedai?
I mean,
they were
those are the
doing
only
that-
those are the only warders that they bonded. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So they were only doing that for Aes Sedai, not the wives.
Yeah.
yeah. So they yeah,
And that's probably, again,
gross.
just looking at this from all angles, yes, gross, but they were probably some kind of defense, so they wouldn't, the Aes Sedai wouldn't turn on them or something. Who
They
knows?
didn't want to, right. So speaking of these bonds and the fact that we've mentioned that, there's a question of whether the series kind of evolved over time, started one way, ended another. And Beth Weston in the chat mentions the Elaine and Brigitte bond and the Pavara and Andral bonds. Both of those brought a different vibe
Dynamic,
to the
yeah.
bond. They were completely different than the bonds that we had seen before, the Aes Sedai being to nudge their warders, and the Ashaman just literally sexually assaulting their Aes Sedai and taking them that way. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
ugh. But
What about
Andral,
the bond with Rand and the three women.
there,
That was a
that
totally
too.
unique bond. It was
Yep. Yeah.
because now you have Brigitte involved in that too.
Yeah.
as a,
Poor Brigitte.
as a tertiary,
Yeah.
as a tertiary. No, stop.
Fifth wheel, like literally fifth wheel, right?
Yeah, it's
Someone draw me up one of those K-drama relationship charts to show where Regina falls in here.
Association matrix.
Yeah.
God, it feels so
yeah.
bad for Brigitte in that moment.
So I guess Winespring, do you have any thoughts about that? Like, did Jordan and or Sanderson kind of redeem the bond, or do you think we've still got some issues with it? And like, what is this anti-feminist or not? Do you have any thoughts on that topic?
Redeem the bond? I don't know that I could speak on that. I can't think of anything necessarily that redeemed it. And it, like, listening to you guys talk about it and remember poll too, like it seems like they're given too much ability to exercise like control and someone's choices, like, and that, yeah, that's not okay. That's where the bond is. It's definitely hitting
Yeah.
the
It's not
danger zone.
redeemed, but it is balanced.
I hope the
We'll say
future,
to an extent,
yeah.
it's balanced.
the future
Yeah.
of the bond is
Okay.
hopefully Andral and Pavara's type of bond, where they're
Yeah.
just
Okay.
like equals.
Yeah. Although I don't know if I would want telepathy constantly, but yes.
that's like
Yeah.
a bit much, but you know.
Have to put up some boundaries in there somehow.
Seriously.
And I think the dynamic also that it's like necessary, it was before necessarily like a woman, because the only Aes Sedai that existed at the time were women, with a man who is her warder, like,
Yeah.
you know, servant type of person, even though he's like basically her muscle. That was the vibe. But now we have Brigitta breaking the mold there. It doesn't have to be a man and a woman. It could be the
Yeah.
man's the channeler and a woman is the non-channeler. Like they did with their wives, you know. I think it got shaken up later in the series in the sense that hopefully they would ban or change the bond so that stupid little bit of compulsion could go away, and then it would be a lot more defensible in my mind.
Yeah.
Way more feminist.
Yeah.
Vance, it looked like you were about to say something, but
No, I was actually just yawning because whenever I have a bright light in front of me, I yawn. But
my apologies. I did not mean to call you out.
no, that's fine. But
my
I'll add my last little thoughts to the bond. I feel like a little bit RJ plays into a lot into there are things that exist and it's about how people use them. The things themselves are not evil, but people who utilize them may be, right? So I feel like it kind of plays into that a little bit, especially with the bond. Now, obviously, we all know that people are fallible and, you know, power corrupts, and having any small amount of power above somebody else just makes it that much more tempting to exercise it. So
And that's reflected in the triangle, the sangral, all of that stuff. you know?
everything, yeah.
Yeah, everything. They're just
So,
tools.
I mean, the
And
bond
whoever-
itself
yeah.
is a tool, but, you know, it's the way in which people utilize it that makes it bad.
Yeah.
So it's people.
That's a really good way of putting it.
People are bad.
People suck.
Stuck.
Right.
Stuck.
Premise of the book.
right.
People bad.
Kevin,
Moral of the Wheel of Time.
Oh, no.
you're not
The
wrong.
abridged version.
Uh,
All the time, people suck.
Kevin Mundweiler in the chat says the fact that the Age of Legends didn't have warders also shows how much more equality
Yep.
there was then.
Oh.
We've got such a weird
Yeah.
gender imbalance at the beginning of the series that it was before different and eventually I think becomes different throughout the series. So you can't judge a book by the first few books, or you can't judge a series by the first few books. That's all I'm gonna say, because I think
Yeah.
Borders come about. Didn't borders come about because Aes Sedai needed to protect themselves because after the breaking of the world, everybody was anti-magic and all of that stuff?
I don't know that it's ever explained how warders came to be.
yeah,
We just
I
know that they didn't exist in the Age of Legends.
I'd have to go look it up. I've never been interested enough to look that up, so I'd have to go do that. Actually, someone in chat just brought something
Yeah,
up. The
Sarah
Forsaken
did.
is slightly
Sarah.
horrified by bonding, and I was like, I do kind of recall that they thought it was weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I think,
Interesting.
was it one of the Forsaken is all like, oh, they would never do this. They would never create the bond if the Aes Sedai actually feel the warder's pain. No, there
Yeah.
has to be a different way to, like, no, they actually did. They did that.
They sure did.
You know?
They sure did.
100%.
Yeah.
So I guess we kind of touched on this, but another part of the Wheel of Time that some would argue is not as feminist is the fact that the arguable main character, which is Rand, the Dragon Reborn, the focal point for the series, is a man, right? He's the most powerful channeler. And that kind of also brings up the topic of the fact that male channelers are more powerful. Like they can use more raw power than women can, although women can link. And so there's all these there's gender dynamics within the use of the one power and within the nature of the Dragon Reborn. So Jenny, do you have any thoughts about this whole situation and what that means for Robert Jordan's thoughts on feminism?
Yeah. Well, regarding the being a male dragon, I don't know. Feminism means equality, so sometimes it's going to be a man. So, I'm not offended by men being in power. Okay, that's,
it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. That doesn't bother me that a man is in power. What I do find the fact that men, I find it unnecessary that he made men stronger than women. That feels like it wasn't that's I don't know. It feels unnecessary. I don't know why he decided that. And even the rules for linking feel like weird. And like, when it's one man and one woman, the man has to be in charge, but the woman has to choose to go in. And like, that's not how consent works. And I don't understand. Why had you made the most common type of bond, a bond that, or a link that would involve a man being in power? Like, why can't it be equal in that? Like, some of his power rules feel unnecessary and
Gendered.
weirdly gendered in a way that plays into real world stereotypes.
Yes.
I mean, let's not even get into the whole Sidar, the way you embrace Sidar versus dominate Sidene.
Yeah.
Varen literally says at one point, she literally says this, you just gotta let it happen.
Yeah.
Wow.
You have to give into it.
Yeah.
But men have to fight it.
Hey,
Yikes.
Hey.
Yikes.
RJ was like, in his 40s when he started writing this,
No,
or late 30s, early 40s. So.
I've often said he feel like when I've tried to explain it to friends of mine who've been like, Jenny, why do you read these books? They're so like the women, blah blah blah. RJ feels like my dad. Like he's a good guy, but he's a guy that thinks he understands women and like, oh no, I know what women want, and I know like that's what it feels like to me. It's like I know the way women are. Women really like it when men compliment them as they're walking down the street. Like,
Which is why I'm so grateful that he stayed away from any kind of sexual anything, any kind of relationship.
Yes.
That would have been horrific.
Yeah.
It would have been bad.
I think in this sense, this particular thing that I do find annoying and hope the show changes, because I don't think we've established that men are necessarily stronger than women in the power, like in the power in the show yet.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a thing yet. I hope they change it, but I tend to agree that, like, you know what, this is like a guy who's kind of middle-aged and was raised during an era, and it was the 90s. And you know what, like, he is a product of his time. I don't want to say he can't be blamed, but I'm not really blaming him for it. Like, he couldn't be perfect, I guess. And
we can be aware of the faults and not blame anyone for them.
Right.
We can just be aware of them.
Given that he was a product of his time, right? He still wrote a fairly feminist book. I mean,
no, you're right. I'm still
which was impressive.
I thought it was delicious. Yeah, I loved it.
Same.
Read it.
I'm obsessed.
It was, I just like gobbled it up. It was amazing. So we were picking it apart, but it was, God, you guys, wonderful.
Because that's the comment that I get all the time whenever I will make, because a lot of my videos are very analytical, and I will, and people will be like, it's a product of its time. Yes, I fully acknowledge that, and I want to give RJ the benefit of the doubt for a lot of things.
All the time.
I always do. But we are also a product of our time. Like, you cannot pretend that, like, when I'm reading the books, I can't be like, I'm just going to take my brain back to the 90s and read it that way. Like, that's not how my brain works. So,
True.
I think the two things can exist at the same time. We can say, yes, he was a product of his time. He was ahead of men, not ahead of all other female. There were female authors doing much more progressive things at the time. Even male authors doing more progressive things at the time.
Sure.
But he was ahead of it for mainstream fantasy authors, male authors at the time. But it's behind now. There are things that are behind now, and it's things like that. Like
they are, but at the same time, we fell in love with the books the way they were written, regardless of how we saw it or how we wished it was different or whatnot. We fell in love with those books the way they were written. And that says something for the books.
Yeah.
Well, and what we're getting now with the show is they're trying to some of the
update
things,
I think.
Stuff. And so we're going to get to enjoy the character storyline with some little tweaks that are woke.
The woke tweaks.
I'm looking at
the woke of time.
I'm looking at the show like these are variants of the Emmenfield 5.
Okay.
These are all variants.
It's
just another turning.
It's a mirror world. Yeah,
exactly.
Luke, Ice Jedi in the chat.
Mirror world.
He says, if I wrote a book today that was super progressive, it might not feel that way in 20+ years. And you're right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The times they be changing. You know.
Change.
Yep.
So I think it's a cool. Okay, wait. Robert M. The 4 strongest channelers that aren't AOL Age of Legends
Age of
tied.
Legends.
I'm sorry, I was like, what? Are Logain, Olivia, Nynaeve, and Cadsuane? No.
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 Olivia is the strongest
Oh,
female channeler.
yes.
Most male channelers outstrip her.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Like I
Oh,
hate
wow.
it. I hate it that Nynaeve is this ultra powerful nuclear bomb when women are concerned, but when men
Yeah.
are concerned, she's like middling. She's like upper middle class, sort
Yeah.
of. Like, sorry, that's how I would say it.
Yeah.
It's speaking of Nynaeve, I think like we've been talking about the characters. We've been talking about how the main character Rand is a man. Somebody actually said in the chat that he's kind of just a plot device, so it's not that big of a deal that he's the main character. The question
To be honest, that's how I see him.
I do too.
Yes.
Same.
Yeah.
I feel so
Could
bad
have been
because so many of
anybody.
my friends love him, but
I know,
for me, he's
same.
just like, he's there. Rand is there.
He has
my
to go.
first time reading, I was like, I kept expecting him to come back and to get more. Like, and we didn't
Literally-
always.
we
Like, we were
literally-
left not knowing a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's literally the glue, right?
Mm.
That bring or the I don't know what to say it, how to say it. The spool that all the string comes to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It just
Are
kinda
you saying
holds
he's
the story together.
Taviran?
What? Who knew?
Maybe I didn't mean to say it, but sure, I'll take it.
So the question is then, like, are the women in the Wheel of Time, because we're talking about equality, just as important as the men in the grand
100%.
scheme? Okay, Vance.
100%.
Hit me with your thoughts.
100%.
All right.
Why do you say
Solid
that?
answer.
Well, because literally, like, I mean, you're going to sit there and tell me that Egwene's part had very little impact on the entirety of the series? Like, come on.
Oh my
She
God.
single-handedly saved the White Tower from a Shan-Chan invasion, y'all. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Single-handedly.
single-handedly.
Sorry, I'm over here. You're a
Calm
hype
down,
guy.
Karen.
Like,
Then she fucking so. Here's the other thing. She fucking reversed Balefire and stitched the pattern back together at the last battle.
reverse.
So
Okay, sorry, I'm really
She
excited.
bought everyone. Yeah, she bought everyone
Yeah.
time in multiple scenarios. Like, and then you're gonna say that Nynaeve's, discovery of how to heal.
Oh my
Sever
gosh.
is not important because seems to become kind of important a couple of times in the
Yeah.
series. And she heals
Yeah.
madness. Like,
She heals madness. She heals
So-
stilling.
NBD.
Moraine's sacrifice was integral.
Moraine's.
To the,
Yep.
Mhm.
I mean, Moraine. Yes.
Wow.
Let's not diss Moraine here at all. Here's a prophecy when she's a young woman.
Yeah.
Dedicates her life to finding the Dragon Reborn. Dedicates the remainder of her life to making sure he's going to make it to where he
Preach.
needs to go. Sacrifices herself to make sure that he survives what he needs to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing. And with,
Yep.
Even if we just look at word count, women get more like page time
Yes.
than men. It's just like
True.
in the book.
I've never looked
But-
at that,
yeah.
but I'm not surprised.
No, go. Yeah, it's a thing.
Not in the first
More-
5 books, but like by the end,
by
of,
the
the
end of the
series.
We make up for
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and I
Okay.
think there are more female points of view in the books than there are male point of views, if
Yeah.
I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. Or chapters, I should say.
Yeah.
Mhm.
By the
Don't we-
time you get to the end of the series, yeah, that's definitely the
Do we
case.
get like a pregnant Elaine leading,
Yep.
like as a
Yes.
general?
Yes.
Too?
Yeah.
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 I mean,
Actually, she
Yeah.
did well. She
Baller.
did very, very well. Also,
You did pretty good.
Avienda took out one of the Forsaken, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Avienda
Yep.
took out.
Brendel.
Yeah,
kind of cool.
I mean,
Lost her feet in the process, but she did it.
pretty cool.
Barrelane
Pretty
took
cool.
Gallet out of her hair.
Wow. Wow. Great example,
Yeah.
Tavern.
Wow.
Jesus.
I hated that guy.
I liked him in the end.
Galad,
like Galad.
okay, so Galad grows on me, but at first he's kind of a douche.
Yeah,
Grows on me,
that's the point.
But we're all in agreement that Gawain can just go fucking fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
Gowan is like shit on my shoe. He's
That
just
was the worst.
he's,
Oh my
He's just the
gosh.
worst. He's the Jean Ralphio of the Wheel of Time universe. He's the worst.
The
John Ralphio makes me laugh sometimes.
I love
Gowan just
him.
makes
I
me
love
want to punch something.
Just saying.
Yeah, actually.
What?
you know
Oh, it's
what?
me.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
was it bad? I don't know.
Beautiful.
Hybrid
good.
Tavern did bring up a good point. Barrelane is a certified badass.
She is
100%.
Yet another character that at a young
very
age.
smart.
Yep.
Barreline is
controls the
another
kingdom.
character. Yeah.
She's
Mhm.
amazing.
I think she's another character where I feel like RJ's limitations of his perspective on women are present. Like she is
Yeah.
she's a woman who's very sexual, except that
yeah.
she's never actually really. She's only had sex with 2 guys, so you can really fantasize about it. Like
Right.
he makes her super sexual for no reason, and then doesn't. She actually isn't sex positive. She's she's pure and virginal, so you can still think about her way if you want.
Make her that. I think he made her that way so she could manipulate the other kingdoms.
Yeah.
As
Oh yeah.
So
Like,
she
definitely uses her
yes, but
for lack
if
of a better term,
you're gonna do
feminine
that,
wiles.
if you're gonna do that, just make her a sex positive character.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that, and
that
and
would
he
have been
like
better.
all of the women hate her because of her boobs.
Literally.
All of it.
Oh,
Like,
come on. Like,
it's-
we are
so
not
horrible.
like that.
no.
No way.
I mean,
We're like
I'm gonna
that.
just
We love your
Alright.
tits too.
as a lesbian,
All right,
I'm
alright.
definitely not like that. But yeah,
But
Like, oh.
yeah,
yeah.
you're right. You're like the Berlin's complicated. Like she's
Yeah.
she's complicated. I wish she slept around and like
I wish she slept around.
I wish
and
she slept
didn't
around.
flirt with
That's all.
Karen.
Like that would be
I
great.
know.
Not with Perrin. Like left him the hell
No.
alone because that was creepy
Oh,
after a
man.
while.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah, that was
Oh,
ridiculous.
you mean after 5
that's-
books of nonstop unwanted
That
advances, it
storyline
didn't
went
get better?
nowhere.
literally,
That storyline went
Uncomfortable.
nowhere. It was so that was one of those unnecessary storylines that
Mhm.
felt like I don't know. It was drama for the sake of drama.
It was.
Yeah.
It
Pretty
was.
much. Pretty much. Yeah.
Not to
agreed,
mention,
100%.
we haven't talked about Roger Duran. You read my mind. Fail.
Yep.
Great
Yeah.
leader.
100%.
She gets
Yeah.
so much shit, but oh my
Yeah.
god,
Fail.
she's
Can we
Yeah.
call her fail?
no, she
No,
saved
she's Fael.
she saved
She's
Amonsfield.
Fael.
She
Yep.
saved the Horn, right?
Correct.
She
Mhm.
like organized the captives
What
from
were
the
they called?
Shido. What?
Her
Is it
followers.
Raphael.
Chafael,
Raphael.
right?
Raphael.
She was incredibly savvy, like helped Perrin with like navigate so much as far as his leadership. Like she is a fucking boss. And a lot of people
Yeah.
don't like her because of the Shido arc and she's mean to Perrin and what a weird relationship they have.
Well,
But
yeah,
she's amazing.
She
I will
also
point out,
tricks
I have
Loyal.
a-
People will
yeah.
say she tricks Loyal at one point, and
don't
that's why
like
they don't
that,
like
yeah.
her. And I'm
I
like,
mean, she-
I don't like that she did that either. I don't like that she and Perrin have this weird abusive thing at the beginning of their relationship.
Right.
But I still kind of like her as a character. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hate on her. Like,
And
that
I
doesn't
will be-
diminish the great things she does later.
No.
Sorry, Jenny.
Yeah.
I'm just.
I was just going to
wanted
say,
get that
people
out.
I feel are a little unfair to Fael, a lot unfair to Fael, because we only really, for the most part, see her from Perrin's perspective. And
Yes.
Perrin is a fucking telepath, empath, I should say.
Basically,
Perrin
yeah.
is judging her based on her emotions, not her actions.
Mhm.
And I'm
Oh,
sorry,
man,
but like
yes.
I have fleeting emotions all the time.
Yep.
I get like, if
Yep.
you were judging me based on
Yes.
my emotions instead of my actions, that's just not a fair
Be
thing to
dead?
do.
I don't know.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
give me
really
some
not
breathing
fair.
room.
a little bit, please.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
doesn't know that. She doesn't know that that's what he's reacting to. So like he'll suddenly be like, "Honey, nah," and acting super suspicious.
And she's like,
she doesn't. Why are you acting suspicious? Like I didn't say or do anything.
yeah.
Like,
Just to
And
plug
James-
here, just to plug, both Jenny and I have made videos about Perrin and
Yeah.
Fael. So go
Yeah.
to our
Oh,
channel.
really?
now.
Okay,
Yeah.
check
Their
them out.
channels. Their deets also are in the description of the
Interesting.
video on YouTube. I didn't say this before.
Yes.
I also
Oh.
didn't say what the spoiler level for this stream is. I do have a banner. It's full spoilers. Okay.
Yeah.
It's down there. It says it right there.
It says it right there.
Yeah.
I forgot to say it out loud, so I just figured I'd say it out loud.
Alex Lobos brought up a good point. She says, I kind of hate her relationship with Perrin, but Fael individually is actually cool. I agree. I love the character. So my personal slog is Winter's Heart with the whole Shido thing. It just went on for freaking ever. But their relationship is really kind of screwy. It's a very weird dynamic where she wants him to be angry at her, and
Yeah.
he's smelling her every emotion and getting shit wrong, and it's like, fuck, stop.
Sorry, without the phrase "every emotion," that's just he's smelling her.
Yeah.
It's really
Smelling her.
weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird
We put it that
dynamic.
way. Yeah.
It is a weird dynamic.
So he
It is a
sniffs
weird
her, he's
dynamic.
like, it's weird. Your hair smells different while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's part of so like this doesn't defend any of the weird abusive things that they do to each other, but they are probably the deepest like intercultural relationship we get into in the entire series. And I feel like a lot of people don't come at it from that perspective. Full disclosure, I'm in an intercultural marriage. My wife is from South Korea. I am from America. Very obviously a Caucasian American man.
What?
And who would have thought, right?
No.
You know, there are definitely those growing pains at the beginning, and I see a lot of that. I think I see a lot of like what we went through as young kids reflected in the very beginning stages of Perrin and Fail's things, minus all of the hitting and stuff like that.
But
Like,
wait,
that's
did
never been a
you
thing.
communicate?
sniffing
Did
is
you
not a part of that?
communicate what you were feeling, or your cultural
yes.
differences?
Yes, we
Because
did. That's
Perrin and
different.
Fail did not.
At
Well,
first.
but then no.
No communication.
But Fail goes to great lengths to learn Perrin's culture, and Perrin does not do a good job to learn hers. So
She also doesn't
let's
do a
not
great
say-
job
Yeah.
of. Well, hold on, but she also doesn't do a great job of telling him. She just expects him to learn it, which I get.
This is true too. That's true. She does it at first. She does not tell him. She expects him to know. So
Yeah.
which is like I said, the relationship was just crazy.
Perrin is not great at communicating. I think I've actually seen some people like on Twitter of time talk about how they think he might be, like neurodivergent in some way, or what? Oh, we lost Vance. Okay, bye, Vance. Oh, there he is. He's back.
there.
Um,
Come back, Vance.
and so I
Sorry,
think
back.
I think part of the way we can explain that relationship, and we're kind of going far afield from the topic, is that he smelled her emotions and therefore reacted. He wasn't like, "Why are you feeling this way?" Or you know, he
Yes.
just reacted. And it's like, no, Perrin,
Communication.
you gotta
Communicate.
you gotta
Yeah.
communicate. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why does she smell that way? Like, very important questions to ask.
Pretty on topic for feminism. I'll
Yeah,
just
I was gonna say,
say.
we're not too we're not too far afield because that's a very masculine thing to do.
Vacation. That's good.
Talking far afield, that is something I'm so curious to see how they deal with in the show because, like, are they gonna like close up on Perrin's nose while his nostrils flare?
They have done some really weird things. And
Can
I know
we
we're going
please?
away. They've done some weird things on his powers, and we've discussed it on the show how they've turned it into like a Teen Wolf kind of thing. Where first it was his ears, and then it was his eyes.
Yeah.
You know, it was just every couple episodes there'd be a new power that they never explained. It just happened, and you're like, what the what?
Yeah.
The eyes are yellow, and he's barking. Like, "Arr."
Oh,
It was
jeez.
It was creepy.
I think to round up the Perrin Fail debate, I personally end up liking them a lot. I feel like some of the most emotional scenes in the books come from those two, and their love is obvious, and that is something that I dig, especially in The Wheel of Time, where the romances are not always the best.
Right.
I cry at their wedding
Yeah.
every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time. And I go from being mad at Fail for the lying to loyal thing to like a couple of like I'm crying.
She's a great character.
Yes.
She's a great
Great
character.
characters.
Yeah.
Oh, we love books.
Yes.
We love books.
Yay, books!
The last time I read the series, I cried whenever he found her after the last battle. I was like, I started crying. Like, she's alive. You guys are gonna have babies. Like, it was fine. It was amazing. I love them.
Yeah.
So that's
Adopting babies.
so we talked about Winespring. If you're on Twitter, you may know that she did a poll recently asking the general Twitter of Time population whether you would. I'm gonna pull it up actually because it'll be way easier to just show you. Would you Twitter of Time? Could you confidently say, little monocle, the Wheel of Time is feminist? Eye emoji. So okay, you can see this. Look at this.
Thank you for that.
Look at this poll. 977 votes. So good on you all for showing us what you feel.
Way for participation. Yeah.
Literally. Excellent poll idea, Winespring. And we've got 54.2% saying, that's a majority, feminist enough.
Good enough.
I think
We'll
that's
take it.
so. I guess Winespring, when you made the poll, what were you thinking? What were you thinking when you put feminist enough asterisk?
What's the
Because there
asterisk for?
are clearly some things that are just not good enough, which we've already talked about, that just for the time we're okay, but maybe if it was written now that just would not work. It would not be maybe as written. Maybe. Don't hate me.
No,
So,
I think you're like
let's
it's not.
just say-
It's not perfect. I don't think anyone.
It's just
would say
not,
it's perfect.
Yeah.
And so when you read it, do you, like for me, when I read it, I felt empowered. I felt called to action. I felt validated in my personality type as a woman and my ability to communicate and enact my will when I need things. So I would say that makes The Wheel of Time feminist. So that's feminist enough for me.
I love that. So yeah, we've been talking today. Like some things are just not feminist. They don't seem feminist. Like the power dynamics when it comes to the water bond that's odd. But mainly like the one power. You know, why are men stronger than women? Like I roll. There's a lot of stuff that's just kind of not equal, but justified in some way or another that didn't satisfy me at least. Yeah. It's like, but eventually it all came out in the end where it was kind of just better. Like it worked itself out essentially. Like everything that I had a major complaint with, like the major Tavern all being boys, that annoyed me at first. But then I realized that Egwene was the champion of the world, and I was like, oh, she doesn't have to be Tavern to be the best.
It's that balance.
It's that balance.
That's not a group opinion.
So we kind of wanted to scroll. So we've got 35.7% saying yes, absolutely feminist. 54.2 feminist enough, and only 10% of you said no definitively. That's pretty strong. That's a strong statement.
I said it that way intentionally because I wanted them to feel like they could say no.
Absolutely.
And there are some people saying no, it is not. It is
what was
not
the
good
percentage
enough.
on the
We're not going to
no's?
celebrate it at all.
It's 10% for
10.
no's.
That's a lot.
So like 97, right? If I'm doing the math right, 97 people in Twitter of Time said no.
Wow.
So yeah, we've got Dame Alex Lobos, who is in the chat tonight. Share her comment. Depends on how you look at it. Is it feminist on a base level? No, not really. I'd be curious why. Is it feminist by its time and the fact it was written by a cishet white man who at least tried? A little bit, yeah. But again, in comparison to most fantasy written by men at the time, so it is a product of its time. I would kind of push back, and I think we would all probably push back on that a little bit. That I feel like in the end, it for me does end up feminist, right? Would you guys? Well, I guess we haven't actually
at this. Like, if you're looking at the definition that we stated at the beginning of the book or at the beginning of the show, its basis, yeah, I would say yes. Feminist.
Comfortable.
Yeah, we have equal. Women and men being equal in their greatness, or however you want to put it, at the end of the series. Yeah.
The representation.
See, I'm one of the ones who voted no.
Ooh,
but that's because
I love it.
I love it. Yeah, it's not because I don't think that the characters are equal or anything. It's because I don't think that the world is equal. I don't think
like
that the
Dana,
world
what Dana said, like it's time for the wheel to end, that kind of thing.
Wow,
like entirely.
I know. It's because the world of the Wheel of Time, I don't think the gender dynamics in the world of Wheel of Time are equal. I think it's still men in having more power than women. So in that, like the characters themselves, I'd say, yeah, there's probably, to me, the women are more interesting, more powerful, whatever. So if I'm analyzing it that way, then yes, but I would say the world of the Wheel of Time is not a feminist world because the men and women aren't equal in the world. So I would not call it a feminist book.
I think at the end of the books, it's open to interpretation that it could get better. That it could
but that's
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah. All right, I got you.
Okay. So you're saying I guess you kept saying world, and I just want to confirm you don't think the story is feminist in that it strives for the equality of women and men.
I'm literally, because when I read the Wheel of Time, this is I go into the world, like I live there in my head.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, I'm with you on this.
In the world of the Wheel of Time, I think I'm in the same gender dynamics as I am in the real world, and the real world is not equal.
Feminist. Okay, interesting.
Like that's that's why I said no. It's not because again, women have a higher word count. The women have more perspectives. The women, to me, are more interesting and nuanced and more integral to the story than the men. But that's when I read it, that's not what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking I'm in this world.
Okay,
so,
that's your perspective. Yeah,
that's a really cool perspective. Yeah, neat to to hear that, because you know, some of us, I'll say like me, take that little bit of nugget of, oh, thank you for this comfort, you know, that you're giving me here. That's enough for now, you know. What I'm hearing from you is like, nah, I want more. I want better. It's still not good.
I want
and
equal.
I
I
love
want
it.
actual
I love
equality.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be
Like I
nice?
get chills. I'm like, more. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow
Kritter.
your lead. I love it. Yeah.
Here's a question that Farstrider, or not a question, but a comment that Farstrider put out. It says, not loving Rand getting to ride off into the sunset while Eggy has to die. So, how does that play into our topic? How do you feel about that? I know how you feel,
I have
Kritter.
a whole thing with, I thought, now there is debate on this. I made a video where I thought that Egwene should have become a hero of the Horn. And people said that Egwene can't be a hero of the Horn because she's a channeler. But I'm pretty sure it's canon that Luz Theron was a hero of the Horn. And like Robert Jordan referred to him as one of the heroes with a capital H. And so I think channelers can be heroes of the Horn. For some reason, only warriors, like people who fight with swords, get to be like, those are the only people who are glorified. So I would have loved to have seen that, to see her die and then go into Teleron Riyadh and that be her reward. Because you're right, Rand gets a reward. And
Do
Egwene
we
doesn't
know
get
that
one.
she didn't? Do we have confirmation?
We don't-
Well, the
we don't
heroes
know.
Just
come
not
back at the
stated.
end.
It's just
Yeah,
not
and but
stated.
we see the heroes at the end, though. They come back to fight, and Egwene is not one of them.
What? How
So
what's
does
the
this
timeline
play
on this,
into-
though? Like, is that after she's
Sorry, go
gone?
The last 3 books are my weakest points.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'd have to go-
that's
I'd
a
have
good
to go look
question,
up the
though. That's a
timeline.
really good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Well, and how
So-
long does it take for you to be a hero? Because Null died and then was
And
one
he
that
was there
that
immediately.
instantaneous.
He
No,
was
well,
instantaneously there.
no, not instantaneously, because they
Well,
spend
it's a
weeks
book,
getting
right.
ready for the battle. Like,
Yeah.
it takes a long time.
Well,
so how long does that?
wasn't
So you're saying
Brigitte? Brigitte was
Teleron
instant,
Riyadh?
right?
Brigitte, but she was already a hero.
Yeah, she was already there. So yeah.
True.
She was already a hero.
Okay, sorry,
So
Winespring.
she didn't have to sit through the orientation, basically. is what
Right.
you're saying.
That's kind of the
Oh my
vibe.
gosh, so orientation.
Winespring,
Really good.
Winespring, you were going to say something.
Okay, so does this question about Egwene being like she should have been a hero of the Horn, does this at all, can we see this equating with Rand's list? Like, can we let her die and be a hero that way?
I think he'd gotten
Can we-
past the list by that point.
Yeah, yeah,
but it's
he
like
had.
No.
Yeah,
Like,
I see
can
what
we
you're
equate the argument?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
she says
We don't
that
want
to
Rand
him.
to have his list. We need to let Egwene die. Like,
Right. But she still gets to be a hero. She gets to be a
we want it all. Yes.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I'm sure she's going to go down as,
as a hero of
books-
the world. Yeah.
Well, that and as one of the, great Amerlin seats, right?
Mhm.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
Yeah. So I mean, she gets her
Her honor and her glory still.
honor. Yeah, she gets her honor
Her legacy.
in her passing.
Yeah.
Whereas Rand, again, I'm not taking sides of it. Rand eyes Witch's body. Some people say I've read people say he might even become the creator, or at least have creator-like powers, because he can't channel anymore. But he thinks of fire, and it freaking happens.
Cool.
It pisses me off because everybody knows that fucking Bella is the creator, and we're leaving that there. So I mean,
Check out her April turnovers on Winespring.
yeah,
That's winespringcafe.com. I think
I had
Winespring
those
broke up.
too, and they're delicious. Go there now. Well, go there after the show.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're good. It's interesting. You have to let Egwene die. My question, as you guys brought up the Heroes of the Horn, would the Heroes of the Horn not, I guess, be considered in a way the Warders of the Dragon Reborn? They're bound. It's a stretch. They're bound when they're called.
Let's go for it, Tavern. Just
They
pull it
didn't,
together for us.
ask to be made Heroes of the Horn.
I'm sure you could
That's
say
right.
no during Hero of the Horn
Go ahead,
101.
Vance. Go ahead. I see
Yeah,
Vance is about to go.
sitting there in the orientation.
The thing is that the heroes don't have to help the Dragon Reborn. That's the thing. Is they're not bound to the Dragon Reborn. They're bound to the horn. And
Okay.
then whoever blows the horn.
Okay, so you're
Is who
right.
they
So I
fight.
misspoke.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so they're kind of warders to the horn. No, that's stupid.
I love
no, because like, didn't they say whenever they were like, oh, we were worried the shadow was gonna get the horn or whatever, and they were like, we would never, like it was literally like, we would never. So I feel like they show up when the horn gets, like they like can't come until the horn gets blown, and then once the horn gets blown, they're like, if I feel like fighting for the horn blower, I'm gonna do that. That's the vibe that
I think they have that option.
I guess that's what they said.
That's
they
what
do
they
say
said.
that in the last book.
Yeah.
But don't forget that in the Great Hunt, the only other time you really see most of them together, like, we can't move without following the dragon banner. It's like, what the?
That was
they have certain rules that they have to follow. Yeah.
I think that's because the banner was there. If the banner isn't there, maybe they wouldn't have that issue.
Maybe they're more free.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Now,
I also think that like the horn chooses people who would always seek to fight, like because they might have the option to say no, but can you imagine Brigida ever being like, nah, I don't feel like fighting today. Like,
I'm gonna sit this one out.
I'm gonna sit this one out.
Pass.
Now, did they ever say how many women were in that?
Not many. I mean, okay,
many.
we don't know, but when we see the horn, like when we see the heroes of the horn, there's Brigida, and then there's the sun goddess. She's a Japanese sun goddess. I can't remember her actual. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like they name a few, but the vast majority are men. Because again, the gender dynamic of the world is that men fight, women don't, and it's only fighting people that get to be heroes of the horn. Like,
nailed that.
Again, Queen is a bloody hero.
It's my headcanon that she becomes a hero of the horn. Where else for her to hang out other than tell her on Rio?
I'm not gonna say it again. I'm not gonna say it.
Please don't.
I yelled that last time.
I don't know what you're gonna say. I don't think I want to know.
Was it Ego Boom or something like that?
Yeah, Trolloc baby's first words.
Oh God! Like okay, we're
Winnie go boom.
Sure.
Winnie go pop. It's like Winnie go pop.
Man.
So,
Lord.
So I love we were talking about the poll, and Melindra of the Beth Sept of the Shido Aiel has a good quote. A question was asked, I guess, of Robert Jordan, where did the idea of the Wheel of Time come from? This is a really long quote, but part of it is, I wondered what a world might be like where the feminist movement was never necessary simply because no one is surprised to see a woman as a judge or ruler, a wagon driver or a dockhand. There's still some surprise at a woman as a soldier, a matter of upper body strength, and weapons that need upper body strength, but by and large, the question of a woman not being able to do a job just doesn't arise. I wonder what that would be like. Like, I think that's cool. And knowing that was like something that he was exploring lends itself to the story, I think, being...
I'm laughing because he said all of those things and then he just didn't put them in the book.
Yeah.
Where are the female dockheads? Where are the female... Like, he just didn't put them in the books.
But we did get a female wannabe Gleeman.
We did.
Gleeman. Which...
there were some women, like when they were being Elaine's bodyguards, or her entourage, right? Her defenders.
Yeah.
Then they wanted all women. There were women that were bouncers. There were women that were cart drivers, or train wagon drivers. So
right, but if you
kind
put
of
those in a
mentioned,
show
but we
and
don't
they're always
see them
off screen, if they're always off screen, then you don't get the credit for it. I'm sorry.
They basically showed up.
I like that.
They showed up for a smidge. But you never actually saw them in the story, so you're right about that. But I mean, they were mentioned here and there, which is just not enough. But yeah,
that's fair. I've got another one that's actually, it leans the other way. I'm coming from a perspective of a cisgendered gay man. I think it would be better to listen to women on the subject, but I think what grates me the most is that it seems to imply the difference between men and women is sacred, part of reality, not socially constructed. That's an interesting point.
Can I tell you one of my biggest, how do I say this? I love these books, okay? But this is one of my biggest disappointments in the series. I thought, through like reading this, when Nynaeve can only channel through being angry, like Theodrin even says this, you shouldn't be able to channel. That goes against everything we know about how Sidar works. You shouldn't be able to channel. I thought that Nynaeve, because of what she does is the impossible, at some point was going to show that women don't have to surrender to Sidar. And I waited until the end of the books because I thought that's what she was going to be. Like, she was going to be like the whole, we believe that men and women are so different and this is built into the foundation of the world. And I'm going to show, because I'm Nynaeve and I do the impossible, that, okay, men are men and women are women. And I still have issues with the binary, but okay, we aren't as foreign as we think we are. Women can use Sidar through dominating. Men can use Sidene through surrendering. Because there is a lot of overlap between men and women. We don't have to be as separate as we think. and it just never happened.
Oh, that
I
would have been
was so-
beautiful.
I was so sad.
That would have been great. Do you think the show is doing something differently? Because I'm trying to remember.
so.
Doesn't somebody, was it Moraine, talking to Rand about how to channel or something? I want to say they talk about like surrender. Or no, it's whenever Ishii is talking to Rand about like, you know, letting go or whatever. When he's like trying to like, when, you know what I mean? He's like, I can't remember the exact words, and I wish I could.
Yeah.
But the vibes were, you need to surrender to the power, in my mind.
Yeah.
And
in
so
the X-ray footage, though, they do make a point of separating them. Like
you're
in the
right.
X-ray
No,
behind,
100%. But they could be. Well, they do seem to like suggest one is like more torrential and the other one is calmer or whatever. But at least in the show, if you're not following the X-ray footage, it seemed to me like there might be some more similarities when that's involved. But maybe that was an accident.
I took it. Okay, so we have to take into consideration that it's Ishii, right?
Mhm.
And his goal is to do whatever he needs to do to, you know, protect the Dark One, whatever, or he thinks he's the whatever it is. He's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But when he was doing that, I took it as he was trying to trick Rand, because if a male, what we know from the books, if a male surrenders and just lets it come in, it could destroy him.
That's true.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was
That's a
either
good
he was gonna get Rand on his side, or he was gonna destroy him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's how I thought about it.
I like that. This next comment that it kind of
That's
goes
smart.
to, it goes to the waves of feminism. Sean Purdy says definitely a product of 80s, 90s feminism, which was more about women being dominant, powerful, badass superheroes, kicking men's asses while wearing heels and lipstick, and wanting to go to the mall right after. But still very girls are
What?
weird, and I don't know how to talk to them. I mean, it's an interesting thought. Like it's funny.
I love the wording on
Yeah,
that.
it's funny, and you know,
Going to the mall after is my
there are elements of that.
I
'Cause
mean, it's supposed to be the Vampire Slayer version of feminism, right? Like,
It
Yeah,
is. That's
right.
exactly right. And that's a good
I
point.
mean, I needed Buffy when Buffy was on.
Oh,
I
I
loved
loved Buffy when Buffy was on. And
loved Buffy.
yeah, yeah.
all the Buffys.
And like, there's nothing wrong with that as well. Like, if you want to kick ass and go to the mall afterwards, that's fine. But yeah, there was a limit to what feminism was, and like these waves of feminism, I think, are just trying to broaden what it can be
Yeah.
to become more inclusive of.
Just
Well, some women don't want to go to the mall afterwards, and some women also only want to go to the mall and they don't want to do the kicking ass part. Like,
Sure.
they can be feminists too. Like, it's, you know.
You got to get them out of the
I love
box.
that.
Just like break through, expand the boundaries of what being a woman can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was at the time.
I
it
think
was,
the
it was
word is like
threatening.
intersectional. Is the word
Yes.
that we're supposed
Yeah.
to be
At the
using.
time,
It's a very
men-
important term.
And men found that threatening. Why? Because we're trying to control the narrative, like they always
Yeah.
do. So anytime a woman tries to break through those barriers, they freak out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also that, like, when men think of feminism. No, I don't want to speak in generalities. Actually, I shouldn't say that. A lot of
Not all men.
when they speak, think about feminism, what they think is, oh, women want to be us. That's what feminism is. Like,
Oh
so
no.
when they
No.
write it, they're like, well, obviously, if a woman wants to be feminist, that means she wants to do what I do. So she obviously knows how to do all the boy things.
No
like,
thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
The boy things is where the problem starts. I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. What is a
Yeah.
boy thing?
But when you do come
Yeah.
across a woman that can, let's say, play football or do all these other things that are, reserved for men, it freaks them out even more.
Hey, if that's what she
Yeah,
wants
right?
to do, that's what she wants. Sorry, Vance. It looked like you
exactly.
wanted to say something.
Yeah. I actually, y'all, I'm coming up on time. I
Okay.
gotta
Yeah.
split.
Oh,
For
So I've
sure.
been trying to
Of
get
course.
in for a little bit, but
I'm
Fine.
sorry. I'm sorry. It was
You're so awesome
no,
for
it's
being
good.
here.
Good discussion.
We're
So,
about to wrap up very soon anyway, so we won't be missing you for long. But we really appreciate you being here, and everyone in the chat.
Thanks.
Thanks for the invite so much.
This was
I
fun.
appreciate
Oh, thank
it.
you for coming.
You're really cool. Yeah. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
bye. Have a
Thanks,
good
man.
day.
Bye.
Bye or night, I
Bye.
guess.
Night.
All right, I
Yeah.
gotta switch to the 4-person stream here when he drops off.
Good
so
luck
you can
with
leave,
this
and then I'll.
switch. We got this.
Badger's over here talking about peeing standing up.
Okay, I
I'm
gotta
sorry,
switch. I gotta
what?
switch some things here. Where?
Who's peeing standing up? Let's discuss this while she
Competition is
fixes.
scary. Peeing standing up. That's another thing that scares men when women pee standing up. Listen, that's just
I
talent.
mean,
That's.
I don't know about scared. That's talent.
it's literally standing, you guys. It's
That's
just
a physical thing.
nothing to celebrate. Or fear.
Oh, okay.
It impresses me more when they can write their name in the snow.
I mean, that's just speed. That's all that is.
Are they running? Are they?
Have a
Y'all
pen.
are
They do not.
silly.
This is too far.
Y'all are
This is too
silly.
dangerous ground.
So there's all these comments, like, thank you all for everyone who voted on this. It's honestly interesting. Lots of people are saying it's a product of its time, but it was trying to be feminist, not by today's standards, but by, there's a lot of it was for its time. So, and a lot of it depends on if you're talking about the show or the books. So since we're about at the end of the stream, this has been incredible. I think we need to do our final theses on this. I want everyone on the stream to declare, well, I guess we kind of know Jenny's a little bit, but like, do you think the Wheel of Time, whether it be the world of the Wheel of Time or the story of the Wheel of Time, however you want to look at it, is it feminist, and is the show different? Do you think the show's different? Do you think the show will be different going forward? Are they trying to be woke, feminist, whatever? So, Winespring, do you want to start?
Okay, so I would say feminist enough, right? And that I still feel comfortable recommending it. That's a big thing.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We'll say feminist enough on that. I like recommending this series. And I am even more excited about the show because I think it's making this awesome series more accessible to people who don't want to read such a long book series. And I think they're doing a really good job at getting this vibe, a more just open, inclusive vibe, less puritanical, fixing it in a lot of ways. And I just have a lot of faith and hope in what they're doing with that. Our showrunner's doing a great job. So next season is going to be great. The season after that's going to be even better. And as we keep going through at least 8 seasons, I just anticipate it growing like the book did, and how awesome it is.
Shoot
10
for 10
seasons?
seasons. We're just gonna make it. Listen, we're putting it in. We're putting it out in the universe. 10 seasons.
We're going to manifest 10 seasons
10
right
seasons
now.
and a movie,
Chill.
hopefully. Okay, so Winespring's got a big check mark. Feminist enough on the books, and the show is looking to be even more to fix any errors that the books may have had because they're a product of their time or whatever. Jenny, do you want to kind of we got part of your answer, but let's get it all.
You're making me think about things differently because my answer was specifically based on living in that world. Thinking about the story, if you ask me if like Handmaid's Tale is a feminist book, I would say yes, but that world is definitely not a feminist world.
Ooh, it's all jacked up.
Right.
Matter of fact,
that's a different way of thinking about it, and thinking about the story and the way the story is told. I think I am leaning more towards feminist enough. The world I still don't think is feminist, but the story, if you're putting me on the scale, I am in between no and feminist enough, but on the feminist enough side.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. I'm feeling very persuasive tonight.
Oh, yes. It's a good stream. It's International Women's Day, of course.
International Women's Day. And Jenny, as far as the show goes, do you think it's different? Do you think they're...
Yes.
Yeah.
They are doing what they can. They're getting rid of some of the trope, like the things in the books that I've literally had somebody hand me back the books after recommending it to them, being like, the author hates women because all the women are always catty and brutal, like to each other. And they're doing away with like stuff like that that are tropes of, I want to say tropes of the 90s, but they're not. Like there's still things that people will say where, oh, women can't be friends because they hate each other all the time. Like,
oh, that's so old. Get out of there. Stop.
Yeah. It's very much in the book.
Yeah. Shit. Get over that. That's heavy, you guys.
Okay, I love that. It is a bummer when people take the beginning, at least, of the books, and they're like, "This is not good for women," and I'm just like, "It is, I promise." Yeah. Just like, keep going.
Stick with it.
Literally.
I wrote a whole article about this. So.
Okay.
All right. So
you can find it on The Great Blight. It's called Poorly Written Female Characters in the Wheel of Time.
There you go.
It's a nice clickbaity title.
Actually, I think I've actually read that.
You want to go read it?
Yeah. All right. So Tavern, what's your final decision?
So on the poll, I put yes, that it was feminism.
Okay.
I'm about 3/4 of the way between feminist enough and feminist at this point, but I'm gonna. I think, Kritter, you stated that the show is correcting things. I think that was your terminology.
Probably.
I will disagree with that a little bit because I think that the characters are the same and that acting in the same manner in which they do in the books. The big difference is that we're seeing it through different eyes. We're seeing it from different characters. Like we brought up before in the very beginning, a lot of it was through Rand's eyes, and that's how Rand perceived different people. The show is telling the story between the lines, right? So the behind the scenes things that we didn't get in the books. If you notice, a lot of the things that you see in the show were either mentioned, like the whole thing with Logain was mentioned in the books, but you never actually saw the capture of Logain and that kind of stuff. You got the Moraine and Lan showing up at the Two Rivers and saying we need a room or whatever, but you didn't get to see what happened in that room like we did on the show. So you're getting the behind the scenes between the sentences version of the story, and I think it's great, and it looks different because we're getting those different perspectives. I think overall the characters as a whole are the same.
Yeah.
I
agree with that.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
Nynaeve is literally my headcanon on screen.
Literally.
Oh my gosh.
Literally.
Exactly
So
my
it's
headcanon.
killing it. Yeah.
Crazy.
All right, so I guess I'll give my perspective. I voted yes. Not enough. I said yes because I was looking at it from the whole story. And I'm talking books. I think the books started tropey and a little eye-rolly at times. Like, I'm just picturing the scene where, like, Elaine and Egwene are like, we're gonna be best friends! Like,
Oh, God.
let's have a pillow fight! Like,
I hate that scene so much.
Thank you. Those aren't real women. Those aren't real girls. That is an archetype. And that was early. And eventually, these girls, these tropes, these archetypes became women. And I think that as a whole, the women were more important or just as important as the men in the story. I think a lot of the imbalances in the story were either like remedied in the way that they created equality, or they kind of like just reworked themselves to make it seem less problematic. So I think the books, yes, they are feminist in my mind, not with any caveats. And I think the books still have, things that could be better, like the early stuff that I mentioned, like that stuff can be tweaked. The Warder Bond, for example, the power dynamics, like they had an excuse to make them the way they were, but they could be better. And I think the show may do that. I think Nynaeve may just be the most powerful other than Rand. I think there will be some stuff, like maybe women and men could be equally powered. Maybe the Water Bond won't have that stupid little compulsion tweak. And if that's the case, then even though the books are already feminist, I think the show could do it even better and earlier. Yes. So that's kind of where I'm at. I love it. I love the books. I recommend them to people. I do warn them, like, if you think the women are one-dimensional, just wait, because I hear that complaint a lot. And I'm just a really big fan, and I think it was a product of its time, but it grew up with me, honestly, because I started reading it when I was pretty young. Yeah. And it ended up being really, really satisfying. So that's
one of the most satisfying ends to a series I've ever read.
Brandon Sanderson is a king. The way and Robert Jordan obviously is the GOAT because he made the notes, he started it, like, dear Lord. Bless him, honestly, all of them. So
his wife was his editor too, is that
Harriet?
Right?
Was his editor. And so
actually there was a quote that somebody posted that there is he wrote, I think they said that Robert Jordan said this somewhere, Jenny or Kritter might know this better than I, but there was a quote that somebody posted today that he stated that every female character in the books, there was a bit of Harriet.
A little bit of Harriet. That's so nice.
That's love.
That's just that right there. So we're coming up on 2 hours. I guess I'll give everyone now just one final word. If you have thought of something, if you haven't said anything, it can be about feminism. It can be about your favorite show that's on TV right now. Just hit me with just say your goodbyes, and say whatever you feel like saying. I don't want to limit you. So Winespring, go ahead.
Okay. I actually think I might have some. I love seeing the feminine joy that we get with the women's circle and Egwene's ceremony, you know, where they're all sitting around together. There's the hair braiding moments, like that type of a moment is just, I know I've said it already about this, it's just delicious. You know, I love it. I love seeing the joy, in those scenes that the show's giving us. And I think like that side of feminism is important to mention too.
That's beautiful.
It's cool how they brought that to the final episode as well.
Yeah.
When Egwene was pulling on the power and she repeated, "You never stand alone," you know,
Oh my
whatever. She
goodness.
repeated that whole thing. That was cool. Yeah.
Solidarity is important.
All right,
Yeah.
Tavern, what about you? Last words.
I'm gonna be nice. I'm not gonna do it. Anyways, love the show. Love the books. I'm happy to be living in a world where not only are we getting the Wheel of Time as a show, we're getting all of these amazing Marvel shows, and we're getting all of these great Star Wars shows. I was probably the oldest person here, which I know for a fact because back when I was a kid and we saw Star Wars for the first time in the theaters, we would never have guessed, even throughout the decades after, that we would ever get something like we're getting today. So today's world is pretty freaking amazing with what we're getting. And I just hope it continues that way.
One step at a time.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, Jenny, what about you?
I might be older than you because I am an old, but I also, I mean, I've been obsessed with these books for more than half my life, and so excited to be watching the show. I'm really, really excited to see some of these things in the books that rub me the wrong way, taken through a modern lens on the show. Like, you know, I mean, even just the foundational aspect of a very, very gender binary system, that is something that I hope most of us are, all of us, I would hope all of us can see beyond and see that that binary is not how the world actually works. I'm very excited to see where they go with that. And
It's gonna be amazing.
yeah. I mean, I'm loving the show. And somebody in the put soiree. Yes, this has nothing to do with
Soiree.
feminism. Just hot older ladies
Soiree.
making out.
Soiree
Please,
for
just
life.
more
More for sure.
Okay, random. Somebody left on my comments. Oh, they added a sex scene just to be like Game of Thrones. They kissed once. Once.
It was
I'm
just
gonna
that
say-
hot.
But it was-
it just felt like
it
a
was
sex
that
scene.
hot.
It was
I'm
really,
gonna
really
say
hot.
from a guy's perspective, right? Game of Thrones was great. You know, they had sex scenes. It was kind of, sometimes they went overboard. Actually, they went overboard a lot.
Yeah.
The scene with Moiraine and Swan, them, just the verbiage, the kiss was hotter than anything I think I ever saw in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Amen to that.
it was really,
The
really, really
anticipation.
hot.
It was there.
That and I want to have Rosamund Pike's babies.
I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't?
I never, when I was reading, like I said, more than half my life, I've never sexualized any of these characters except for Lan, which I know is a weird thing. Blah blah blah. Let's move on
Weird.
from that.
Let's move
Yeah,
on.
but-
Let's move on.
Yes, his poetry is
not
really
weird.
hot. His poetry is really hot, but I'm a gold star lesbian, but I can't. He confuses me.
Gold
Anyway,
It's beautiful.
I never sexualized any of them in my head, and now this cast. What the hell? What the hell?
You make such a good point. I never did that either.
They're all impossibly
Hello,
attractive. They're impossibly attractive.
It's stupid.
It's not-
It's so stupid that they're hot. They're all hot.
They're all hot. Okay, random thing. I, in my mind, literally at one point was like, well, at least the kids, like the Emmonsfield 5, at least they're young, so I will
Nope.
feel creepy. Like, I'm not gonna.
Nope.
Nynaeve is just on the cusp of that age where I don't feel creepy. And
Nice.
the end of episode 4, where she like turns and looks in the camera, I was alone watching. She turns and looks in the camera. I literally went, oh no.
It's amazing.
I mean, the show made Dark Friends look hot. I mean, come on,
Yes.
Dana deserved better.
The show made
Oh my
literally
God, Dana.
everyone hot.
Everybody's hot. Everybody's hot.
everyone.
Not fair.
Okay, well, I will, I guess, round up the stream by saying thank you to everyone for being here. Everyone in the chat, you were super lovely.
Yes.
Winespring.
Oh, I love live chat. Sorry.
The poll was fabulous. All of your commentary was amazing. Tavern, you as well. If you can stop saying that thing that you keep saying, that would be amazing. And Jenny, this was so much fun. I don't know. We haven't really had a chance to like just kind of like vibe and like talk to each other, and so this was a great way to start. I think I had a lot of fun talking to you.
So cool.
So that's it for the stream. Thank you guys all for being here. I'm not sure if we're going to be having a stream next week. We're going to have a bit of a hiatus that I haven't told anybody about because I'm going on vacation and have a couple things coming up soon. So
me too. Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. But we will keep you posted on when we are going to be here and when we're not going to be here. Just keep your eyes on our Twitters and all that stuff. And I will say it one more time. All of our deets are in the description of the video on YouTube. So check them out. Go to winespringcafe.com. Buy Tavern's merch. Go check out Jenny's videos and just kind of hang out with me. I don't know, you do whatever you want. And okay, that's it. Thank you guys so much. This was so lovely. Bye.
Hi everybody.
Bye.